We are kicking it off, and we're live on Monday today. Good morning to you, Vernon, and a happy new week to you. It's the final week of May, and we are going into June, which is the halfway point. It's halftime. It's time to stretch the legs, try and see what's happening. See whether the first half has been any great. You're usually caught on the back foot in the first half of the game. But Vernon, how is it to you, my brother? How is it to you?
We're doing all right. We're doing great. Thank you so much. I think the morning is lovely. Like I've always said, the cold season is my favorite. So this time is, Christmas for me. I love it.
Why is it your favorite, Vernon? Or is it something we can't talk about on camera? We can't talk about it on air. Is it something we can't say on radio? Why it's your favorite? Why is it Christmas to you? We need
It's an enjoyable
explanations for
season.
that. Okay. No, we understand. But what kind of Christmas we don't know. So we'll leave it there. Vernon. We'll leave it there. Some animals hunt in the summer, some animals hunt in the winter. There's a difference. Uh, so let's get down to today's conversation, Vernon. There are going to be two things I'm going to really want to get to today. I want to go through the payment system report. So, good morning to
Mhm.
everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know it's been a tough day today, but thank you for joining us. And give us a shout out where you're joining us from. Give us your name and who you are with right now. So, thank you so much, and let's get down to the business of today. In today's conversation, we are Vernon looking at, as I said, the payment system report, which actually we have now started to issue out. So this is the preliminary report on payment systems. If you're an entrepreneur or you're investing in a stock that actually deals in some form of payments, or at least is a banking sector stock, this is information to you that helps you see. It also gives you a gauge as to the consumer of the country and the business activity of the country, because the more currency that's being transacted, the more economic activity is taking place on a real perspective. So let's break it down. Let's look at it today. We are seeing that quarterly payments, in terms of the quarter, did end at 174 billion kwacha for this quarter one 2023. This is a bit higher than the previous quarter of 158 billion in quarter four, and much higher than 139 billion in the first quarter of last year. Now, in real terms, when you adjust it for inflation base year 2010, you are seeing that it's about 47 billion kwacha. 44.87 billion kwacha worth of activity, higher than last quarter of 42.96 and higher than the previous one of 39.52. So you are seeing some real growth in terms of the types of things that are being transacted as well. You're seeing growth in the value of transactions, you're seeing growth in the number of transactions. There is an actual growth happening in terms of the payments that people are doing over this period. So it could actually be a signal even of money supply going through the system. We have seen growth levels also starting to decline. If you take a look at March 2022, that's when we saw the peak of payments, 72% and 52% in real terms. But when you started to now it started to actually come down. We're down to about 25% growth annually, year on year, in terms of real terms, versus 14% in real terms as well. So you can see that there has been a continuous slowdown. This is the slowest that we've seen payments growth since 2019. So we are still seeing some sort of deflation. There was a real push up of the growth of the consumer. And mainly this has been also the growth of mobile money. The growth of mobile money is starting to come down. So here's the breakdown in terms of each of the actual payment systems themselves. Now, the big shocker in all of this is point of sale. Point of sale has actually continued to rise and is now continuing to outstrip electronic funds transfer, and is now the second biggest payment system in Zambia, making up 22% of all payments. Number one is still mobile money, up 51. It's 51% of all payments. As you can see, up 22% from last year and 22% from last quarter. There was a real recovery that we saw in mobile money payments. We saw that a 54% year on year growth in point of sale payments. I think this is the one that's really driving quite a bit of growth, with ATM transactions declining and checks also declining continuously. I still don't know who these people are who are holding on to checkbooks and decide that they still want to do transactions, but you are still seeing 37 billion kwacha worth of point of sale transactions. It's actually quite interesting for us here. We're seeing it grow as well. In terms of the quarter on quarter composition of point of sale, it did come down, but year on year, you can see that there has been a change. It's up 4.3% in terms of the composition, and it is beating out. It's beaten out electronic funds transfer, and we are now starting to see the Go Cashless campaign starting to take root. So if you're an entrepreneur, this is what you must remember. The majority of people in this country the majority of payments in this country, or the value of payments being done, is 51% by mobile money, 77% by point of sale. Oh, so only about 8% of the value of transactions are coming out through ATMs. What does that tell you, Vernon? If you are not receiving mobile money payments and you're not receiving POS machines, you are most likely going to chase your customer, or you're going to inconvenience your customer. So I think the only people I'm seeing who are very resistant to change are most petrol stations. I've seen some of them are starting to now have POS machines there where they are. And we're seeing some changes finally starting to happen at groceries, except the big, mighty main grocery store. They know themselves, the number one in the country. They are refusing to use mobile money, except they do use point of sale, but they're just rejecting mobile money so far as being able to pay directly your bill, your grocery bill there. Those are the two biggest hindrances remaining. But you're seeing most government transactions can be done by mobile money now. Most payments, I think the only thing is we're waiting for is police payments should be able to be done by mobile money as well. Those are the only things that are remaining. But you can see here that if you are conducting commerce, you must be able to receive POS and mobile money, because POS is equally growing quite fast. Like I said, 54% year-on-year growth. It is the fastest growing payment system, and now the second largest payment system, even outside of electronic funds transfer, which is mainly done by businesses doing transactions between one another. What you can also see in this picture, you can see, as I said, mobile money is continuing to stretch out. That green line there, that is mobile money payments, 89 billion kwacha worth of payments in the quarter. Second, 37.4 billion kwacha there. That is point of sale. And third here we're seeing is electronic funds transfer. You can see somewhere at the end of 2022, this part here in September, you can see that red line finally crosses over that white line, meaning that was when point of sale overtook electronic funds transfer. ATMs, you can see that it's really flat. That yellow line which is the ATM transactions. It's been flat. It hasn't been growing. So people have been going cashless, especially since 2019. And then you can see checks. I still don't get it. Who are these people who are still holding on to the idea of a checkbook? That's why I said the most resistant to change person in this world is a person who drives a manual car and pays for it with a checkbook. That is the most resistant to change person. The manual car drivers are going to come after me for that one. But hey, that's life. In terms of growth rates, however, you are seeing that mobile money growth rates are continuing to decline down to about 22%. This is the lowest we've seen mobile money growth rates in a long time. But we've seen that even electronic funds transfer is still oscillating around that 22 to 25% growth rate as well. While we're seeing POS continuing to grow, it is starting to slide down, but now at 54% growth in point of sale. So in other words, those machines that people can pay with directly at your store, those are growing by 54% in terms of the value of transactions. As you can see, ATM transactions are declining by 2%. Remember that the pandemic held us in our homes for a long time. So people didn't go around making payments. They weren't moving around. So they got used to making payments online, directly to each other, delivering to each other. And you're starting to see a cultural shift in the way people are using money by the Zambian people. And this digitization through mobile money and point of sale is showing you that the Zambian people's behavior is changing. And that's very important, because if you're going to conduct commerce with your customers, you must make sure that you're in line. You don't want to provide them with payment options that are against what they're using, because you're chasing them away. So when you are trying to do a transaction with a customer and serve them, make sure you are in line with the payment options that they are very comfortable with. At the same time, you also want to see that here's the breakdown, as I said, of all the payment systems as they look. As you can see, mobile money has been wobbling about a bit. It lost its ground in December 2022, but back again in March 2023. In quarter one 2023, it's back to 51%. As you can see, our point of sale has gone from 17% and it's sitting around 22%. Electronic funds transfer is sitting at 18%. And ATMs have really just continued to lose ground, down 10, and now down to 8%. And there's just that 1% of checks that are just floating around in this country. They're just 1%. of checks. I think we just banned those things, people. They're gone, people. They're gone. You're just holding on to the past now. So now let's take a look also at volumes, which have also been declining quarter on quarter, but are up year on year. You can see that total volumes of transactions are at 489 million transactions, or 490 odd million transactions, up 47% from last year, mainly due to a 50.7% growth in mobile money transactions year on year. So you can see that we're getting more and more comfortable with mobile money. It's becoming more and more the norm. Even just the number of transactions. In fact, it makes up 94% of all transactions in Zambia. It should tell you that whenever someone presses send or pay, they're using mobile money 94% of the time. It is the mainstream payment and sending option in this country. You also are seeing electronic funds transfer up 13%, but point of sale have also beaten out electronic funds transfer, and still the only decliner year on year. I'm still trying to figure this out, Vernon. How are checks growing? How are we seeing more checks being issued from last year this time? There's a 1% growth in check issuance last year, but we are seeing that 4.9% decline in ATM withdrawals and deposits. People are going to ATMs less and less, and that's why we're seeing ATMs are less of a viable business for people, though there is still transactions going on through them. People are only going to ATMs if they have to, because you can go to a restaurant, pay with mobile money. You can go to some stores, pay with mobile money. You can pay people even at the market these days with mobile money. You can send money with mobile money, and those inter-mobile money transactions, and also people being able to push money between a bank account and mobile money, is now people don't have to go to the ATM, withdraw, and then deposit at a mobile money stand. You can just go directly. So these technological and environmental changes that are also happening are supporting the growth of mobile money, the decline of ATMs. We're also seeing that average transaction sizes also are bounced back up 19% in general, due to a 32% increase in mobile money transactions, 1% in transaction size. So the average mobile money transaction size is 194 kwacha. Now, this is quite important data, because if you're looking at the price of your product, it tells you what kind of payment system your customer is used to. That's what this information here is quite useful. So if you've got products that are less than 200 kwacha, or somewhere around that 200 to 400 kwacha range, then you're better off selling it to someone using mobile money. If you've got a product that's more than 10,000 kwacha, maybe you're selling stuff that's more than 10,000, somebody's probably more comfortable doing a transaction directly to your bank account, or you're probably dealing with a business who's either going to do it directly through their online banking portal. If you've got transactions around the 1,000 to 2,000 kwacha range, or 3,000 kwacha range, you're really looking at a point of sale transaction. Somebody's more comfortable swiping or paying at a POS machine. And obviously, ATMs have declined down to 1,700, while checks are really for about 6,000, 7,000 kwacha transactions by people who are just resistant to change. Now, around this area, you're now starting to see if whatever kind of business you're running, or activity you're running, or transaction you're running, this is the kind of payment system you probably want to try and capture. But it does show you, one of the things that is of interest to me, because if you look between March, December, and March this year, March last year and this year, the two who are showing size growth are point of sale and electronic funds transfer. You can see that electronic funds transfer average sizes have gone from 11,882 to 12,552 to 12,751. So you can see steady progression in the size of transactions. And the same thing with POS, from 1,500 when it was less than ATMs to 1,900. Now it became more, and it's continued to grow higher, while ATM transactions are stuck somewhere around 1,760, 1,770. So you can see that 1,700 range, while checks are pretty much stuck within the same range. Mobile money went down, came back up. It's been going through a seesaw, and that's what's actually affecting most of the retail payments in this country. It's mobile money sizes. But really, the two where you can see continuous growth, it's where people are even getting more confident doing bigger transactions with their cards. So when you look at cards, by the way, I think this is important even for banking data. There are 3.4 million cards now in issuance in Zambia, bank cards, 2.4% growth from last quarter, and 5.6% growth from last year this quarter. So we are seeing card issuance is growing. So the card businesses and the card issuers are actually growing. We're seeing 7.6 average transactions per card per quarter in this quarter, which is 5.97% lower than where we were last time, but 4.6% higher. So there is some sort of wobbling around this 7% line when it comes to 7 to 8 transactions a quarter using a card. So someone is more comfortable using a card 7 to 8 transactions per quarter. You are also seeing about 14,000 kwacha worth of transactions done per card in this quarter, which is 4% lower than last year, but 26% higher than last quarter, but 26% higher than last year. So people are getting more comfortable going cashless even with their bank cards. Okay, so that's what you're seeing. So it is signaling more and more offer cashless payments. Number of point of sale machines are up 30% from last year. So even the businesses are starting to learn that we need POS machines at our establishments, or else we're going to chase our customers away, or else we're going to inconvenience them. So a 30% growth in POS is showing that the average number of transactions per POS machine is down 8.68%, but that's also because of the rapid growth of POS machines. So I think this also what's driving the point of sale movement is the actual adoption. Shops used to be against having POS machines, but now there's actual adoption. So we're seeing an 18% growth also in the average POS machines transaction size. The average POS machine, by the way, in the quarter was processing 1 million kwacha last quarter, 2022 December, quarter 4. We saw 1 million kwacha POS transactions. Just want to put it there here. When we're looking, we'll look at it later. But we saw about 1 million kwacha worth of point of sale transactions per machine every 3 months. Okay, so that also tells you that these machines are actually doing a lot of business here. But that's down 20% from there. Now it's down 20% to about 944,212. So this is actually quite lucrative, even to the banking sector. It's also telling you that banks can actually pick up quite a lot because cash handling fees are much less for banks. Now they can just do a lot of the digital fees, and it lowers their transactions cost. They don't have to have someone trundling cash around, shoveling it into ATM machines so that people can come and withdraw and have those ATM machines being maintained. POS is actually a cheaper way for banks to offer payments. So this actually makes banks more profitable, especially in their transaction services. So even at ATM machines, what are we seeing? ATM machines are declining. We've got less than 1,000 ATM machines across the whole country. About 8,176 transactions being done per ATM machine, down on the quarter and down on the year. And even the 14 million kwacha being transacted per ATM machine, it's down 6% quarter on quarter and even down year on year. So what does that tell you? The average banking customer is more comfortable swiping than withdrawing. So already, once again, if you're at a store, if you're running a business and you're at a store and you tell somebody, no, chief, we only take cash, you're likely to make that person walk outside. And if they walk outside, it's a 50-50 chance they'll come back and they'll finish that transaction. So if you're running any form of business, you have to have some way of receiving these payments. Especially, look, if somebody has a card, possibly they got mobile banking and they can push money directly to possibly they've got their mobile wallet or their mobile banking, they can push money to your mobile wallet. That push function at least will try and help you receive money from this customer. So that's some of the data that we see. Now, other things that we've seen in terms of cards, this is quite interesting, Vernon. If you look at the transactions behavior from where we were last year and this year, take a look at the volumes. The top part there is the volume. So as bank transaction volumes are up 10% on the quarter, Zambian consumer is still continuing their growing preference to going cashless. So you can see POS of the total volumes of transactions on a card up from 64% to 69%. Okay, so you can actually see that people are doing more than 2/3. So for every transaction I'm doing at the ATM, I'm doing 2 transactions with my card. Okay, so that already tells you what comfort levels people are having. And the same thing you're also seeing here in terms of bank card transaction value. So it's gone from 62% of the total value transacted over bank cards, and that's up 33%. It's gone from 62% up to 72%. Okay, so the Zambian consumer is getting more and more comfortable transacting across banks. Okay, transacting using their card in terms of the amount of money. So you can see that this has really reflected in a strong growth of the Zambian consumers go cashless. And this is also probably because at a national level, we are pushing going cashless. In addition, you are seeing even the size of transactions per device. The average card, as I said, is about 15,000 kwacha, down from 16, but up from 12 last year. And you can see that the average point of sale machine was only at 779,000 kwacha, is now 944 this quarter, but was at 1.1 million. So that shows you there's really some growth in the system. But even the average ATM has been stuck around this 14 million. It did pounce up a little bit in the festive season. So that does show you that there was some spending last festive season, last quarter four. I'm sure with the events we saw this last week, there's probably been some serious spending as well. And I'll be curious to also see how the NAPSA payouts have actually affected these payment systems, because we're looking at 5.7 billion kwacha worth of money that's just gone into the system that's going to circulate probably into much more payments happening as well. The average quarterly transaction size, as you can see, point of sale keeps rising. Card payments are up from 1.6 thousand kwacha to 1.8, all the way up to 1.9, closing out this quarter. And finally, let's take a look at remittance flows in the country. We are back up into positive remittance. We've got positive growth in the remittance section, 40 million kwacha in net remittance. Why? Because of a 17% growth in remittance inflows with a 0.3% decline in remittance outflows. Why? Because our currency got weaker this quarter. When you have a weak currency, Zambians abroad tend to send more money in for building projects, and local Zambians make more money in online work. So these two things happen because a Zambian gig worker becomes cheaper when the FX rate is weaker, so they become more competitive. So when the kwacha goes up to 20, the Zambian gig worker, let me just put it to you this way. If a Zambian gig worker, say, is doing branding work and they're charging 3,000 kwacha or 3,200 kwacha for their services, if the kwacha is 16, that's $200. But if the kwacha is 20, that's $160. That's a 25% decline in the dollar cost for a Zambian who's working online. So you can see that the weakness of the currency makes the Zambian gig worker cheaper. At the same time, if a Zambian is living abroad and the Zambian kwacha gets weaker, the cost of the construction project that they're trying to undertake is now cheaper. So they tend to send more money back home to complete construction projects. Though my advice to Zambians living abroad has always been this. On one hand, when the currency gets weaker, buy buildings. Okay, so here's the dichotomy I've said for Zambians who want to invest their money back, because 97% of Zambians still have their passports. Sorry, 95% of Zambians living abroad still have their passports. They still look like they want to retire back in their country. They haven't really changed their citizenship and their livelihood outside. So here's my advice I always say to people. When the currency is strong, bonds. When the currency is weak, build. That is the best way for a Zambian to flow their money back in. Because if the currency is getting stronger, that means bonds start becoming the thing you want to start buying. If the currency is getting weaker, throw money into your construction project. So that when you return home as a Zambian, you've got this bond portfolio and you've got this set of buildings, so you're receiving rent and coupons together. That becomes a very relaxing kind of retirement, as opposed to maybe just only having one for you. So that is always my advice, to try and get the inflows. But it's just, I think, getting to that mainstream. But we are seeing a recovery. So you saw a 33% jump up in net remittance and a 27% Q-on-Q jump up in net remittance as well. So we're up from where we were. In terms of the growth, you can see 34%. This is the year-on-year net remittance. The biggest one we had was in 2019, when we continuously started losing currency value. If you can see, when we keep devaluing, our remittance growth was actually stronger. In 2022, when the currency got stronger, you can see that remittance growth now started to go negative, because people now here in Zambia could afford to send money outside to get things. So the weaker the currency, the more dollars flow in through the remittance network. The stronger the currency, the more dollars flow out, because people are now trying to send money out, or the people who usually send it in are struggling to, and they haven't really gotten hold of the bond market. But here's just a quick picture of it all. And I think, sorry, it's just being blocked a little bit there. But the quick picture of it all does show that remittance for the quarter, is actually up. so far. Sorry, just wanted to put that out there. But remittance for the quarter is actually up 40.6, as we've seen. It was down to the 30s earlier. And you can see, Vernon, that if you can see carefully, Vernon, there is that alignment with the FX rate. As the FX rate got stronger from 22 down to 17, you can see that in March 3rd, 2022, you saw remittance decline as well. And you can see that as it wobbled up a bit, remittance went up. As it started to slow down, remittance went back down and went to the lowest when it got to 16. But as the FX rate has picked up, you can see remittance is back to 40. So you can actually see that the weaker the currency gets, the more flows of kwacha that we can actually get from those abroad. And that, Vernon, is our remittance, our payment system conversation for today. We are seeing the headline news and all of that is Zambians are continuing to go cashless. They're becoming still more and more comfortable with it. Volumes of transactions are leading towards cashless. The Zambian consumer is spending more. We're probably going to see that trend continue in quarter two. Mobile money and point of sale are leading the charge. POS machines are growing at a much faster rate, while ATM machines are declining. So I think it's always wise for as many of our people, especially those who are doing business, to make sure that they line up their business trading with the Zambian payment preferences. That isn't wording again. I'll say it one time. How your customers prefer to pay should be how you are doing business, or else you will chase your customers away. I didn't know that rhymed. Anyway, let's get back into things on the other side of this break as we talk about bravery, Vernon, courage, because that's one of the mindsets that we're missing in this country. And we're back. I didn't get what was your take on our new payments culture. It appears Zambians are going digital.
Yeah, which is a good thing, you know.
Sorry, just a little
Essentially,
bit louder.
I think it is a good thing that we are looking in that direction when it comes to growth of businesses as a country, and I think business owners, people who are supposed to operating should learn to appreciate that because then the bad part, of course, would actually be that they'll be left behind because, of course, most of the clients would have transitioned to the digital way of doing things. But sadly, they're trying to hold on to the ways medieval times. I'll put it that way. I think it's about convenience. If it's gonna make me walk about and queue up, and then you're not helping me as a customer. But if you're gonna make it easy for me in a matter in just a split second, I buy, I'm at the counter, I swipe, I walk away. I think that is just the way to go, and people just need to transition to that. Who wants to stand in line for cash all the time? For filling stations also, I have seen those POSs and whatnot, but they're not very functional sometimes. Just
Yeah.
have it there if you are maybe with a bank, particularly a particular bank providing that POS, but for the filling station itself providing that POS, so that anyone maybe using mobile money or anybody
Mm.
from any kind of bank, so long as you have a Visa card, I don't think they have those. So they also need to look at that because it's going to create more, convenience for clients, for customers to even transact even better.
And no need for change. No need
No.
for looking for change. You see, the beauty about mobile money is you're cutting out the need for change. You're cutting out cash handling. I think what people don't understand is cash handling is a cost. When that person at the petrol station is there at 2 a.m. holding a wad of cash in their pocket, you know, somebody can just come with a gun and come and take that money. That's
That has
dangerous. But
happened.
if
We've gotten such reports.
yeah, so it's
Even
actually
safer.
it's actually much safer for the petrol attendants for them to use mobile money as opposed to now someone just saying, "Aha, that's our ATM." When I need when I need money, when you become a human ATM for them. So I think that's the other thing. But although Vernon, I think one of the best things I've seen is now when you're in church and the pastor says we are now going to tithe, you're now starting to see this device starting to come up now, and people are now using no, but even at church, they even like flash, like here's our Airtel, here's our MTN, here's our Zamtel. If you want to pay directly to the bank, like the churches have now embraced diverse payment options for tithing now. So I think the other thing that's starting to happen is churches are receiving a lot more tithe because that's where people felt this. There was this act when the offering bowl comes around. And people felt a bit resistance because you have to be seen putting something in the offering bowl. Okay, otherwise you skipped offering that day. Then people will look at you. You're even blessed, and you're not giving back to the Lord. There's this. You have to bring cash into the house of the Lord. So now we're starting to see a bit more technology helping with bringing cash. So you're starting to see people are a bit more comfortable with the offering bowl just directly passing now. Like you can grab it. I haven't paid cash offering, in a while. I haven't paid cash offering in a while because there's always been. I always use I would always do it via bank card, or sorry, by online banking. Like I'd actually do it directly, or I do it via mobile money. In fact, my option has now become more frankly mobile money as an easier way to do my tithe. So a lot more people are becoming comfortable with the digital tithe. Although I think we do need to start surveying even churches. I think it would be good research for us even as a station to start surveying churches to find out what percentage of their tithes are being received as cash, what percentage of tithe are being received in the form of electronic payments and mobile money, and what percentage of tithe payments are coming in the form of cash or mobile money. That would be very interesting to see because I think that's also one of the other cash points. Because there was that glory, and they used to put the offering bowl like at the front of the church so that the big banners could walk to the front and they could show you how thick the envelope was. They'd drop it there so that people could see. And then the really big ballers, Vernon, they don't come with cash. They'd write a check, and they'd even show you it's a check. They drop it in the offering bowl. Their antics when offerings are their antics at some churches when offerings are coming about. But yeah, that's just some of the data over the weekend, Vernon. And I know some people have had their way with this, and I have my view on this. is that we saw quite a few events happening. We went from Thursday, Friday, and we've even had Saturday. We had that APSA Cup, and we had one of our local artists say, "I want to fill up Hero Stadium." Okay, and in as much as that was a daunting task, even I was like, "Whoa, hey, that's a bit big." My belief, Vernon, is if your dreams are big, that's the reaction they should elicit from people. If your dreams are big, but my problem I always seem to have with our people is we love saying the West and capitalism and all these things are our worst enemy. They're keeping us down, they're stopping us. No, they're not. What's keeping us down is the people of this country who have a negative attitude and are the loudest voices in a room, who, whenever somebody has an audacious dream, like trying to fill up a stadium, I got answers like this, Vernon. Well, he didn't technically fill up the stadium. He got like half, and the other half wasn't there, so he failed. I was like, dude, you can't even get 50 people to come to your birthday party. You really want to be having an argument about a guy who actually managed to get the biggest stadium in this country, even if it's half. Let's say you're right, and he only filled up half, okay? Let's say you're right, and only half of it got filled up. That's 30,000 people who left their homes to go and see this guy, who was the headline act with no international act, okay? That's 30,000 people who went to go and see local acts and celebrate our people's, our musical culture. That's a big attendance. I mean, a lot of people, even if he's a huge artist, yes, he's built it up. People, it's hard to get 100 people to pay to come to a concert with no international artists. It's hard to get 1,000. It's hard, people. It's really hard to get 1,000 people. People struggle to fill up Mulungushi. People struggle to fill up their own church. People struggle to fill up free concerts, Vernon. Free, okay? You can't even pay people to pitch up at some of these events, okay? Outside, I think the only people who get full people there are political rallies, and that's politicians who are using political masks. They're even ferrying people there. But people left their homes to go to Hero Stadium to a concert. The majority of them were there. They were paying. They enjoyed it. They enjoyed the event. Okay. Yes, there were some thieves. Yes, some people broke in. Yes, there's horror talk. Everybody's going to try and paint it the way he did, but the dude dreamt big. Okay. He had a big dream and he went for it. And this is what my problem is. I think one of my problems I have, Vernon, that holds a country back, I think our people are not used to the idea of Zambians having big dreams and pursuing them. We have what's called the chicken and eagle mentality. So I'm going to show you a quick video about the chicken brain and the eagle brain and the mentality that we attach to our own people and our own dreams. Quickly just watch this. It's an old video, but it does teach a strong lesson about why we struggle to ascertain economic freedom in as much as we say, it's a system, it's IMF, it's actually you. You are actually the issue. Okay, there's actually a book we're reading in a group called The Mountain Is You. Zambians, the economic mountain is not the IMF or anyone. It's you. And this is what it means.
The farmer one day found an eaglet's egg, and he picked it up and took it over to the hen house and put it under one of his hens. And when all the eggs were hatched, the little eagle was hatched with all the other little chickens. And of course, immediately the mother hen begins to rear her chicks, as she often does, and the little eagle was treated exactly the same. And as he continued to grow, he assumed he was just a part of the family. He was another chicken among chickens. And so he began to learn the things that all little chickens learned, to go around the barnyard and peck for worms, and then when it came to flying, learned to fly maybe a few feet, first at very awkward, and then he got pretty good at flying only a few feet at a time. And this is the way he continued to live, just following the role of all the other chickens. And then one day, when he was much older, he looked up in the sky and he saw a beautiful, majestic bird riding on the winds. And he turned to one of his friends and he said, "Who is that?" or "What is that?" And His friend said, "Oh," he said, that's an eagle. They're birds of the sky." He said, "We're chickens, and we're birds of the ground." After the old eagle heard his friend tell him that that was a bird of the sky and he was a bird of the ground, there was a part of him that had been caught in that moment of seeing that bird in the sky that ignited a longing in himself to fly a few feet, to eat worms. The worms had never satisfied his hunger, and the flying never seemed to be enough. And he suddenly realized that he was facing a decision in his life. And that decision really was, do I continue to go on with life as I've always lived it, or do I do whatever it takes to fly like that bird? And so he began to ponder that, and he made a decision. He would rather try to fly like that bird than to simply accept the way he had been living. And so that's the decision he made, to fly. And his life was changed forever.
So I say this to all my fellow people: fly. You know, everybody who has something to say, most of them, I don't do much. That's the reality. If most people have the time to try and drag and put pictures and say, yeah, it's fail, it doesn't work, and all that, if you have the time to do that, you're probably not doing much in your life anyway. Okay? It's not just something to comfort you. It's just that you end up engaging with people with not much to offer anyway. And that's the sad part. You see, an eagle is a free bird. It's on our planet. You know, we eat more chickens in this country. We don't have chickens on our flag and on our emblems, but we don't have a chicken on our flag, though we eat more of them. Actually, chickens are probably the most consumed meat in this country. But eagles, the eagle is what we put because it represents freedom. That is what it's meant to be. That's why we have it on our flag. But unfortunately, a lot of our people are harboring a chicken mentality. Okay, don't believe in themselves. They don't want to. So if a guy says, "I'm going to fill up a stadium," and he fills up half of it, like he fills up a quarter of it, that's the biggest stadium in the country. Okay, that's tens of thousands of people. That's a huge thing. Okay, even if it's that's a huge thing. Okay. And we have this negative bias to always try and pull someone down. And I think that's my biggest concern, Vernon, is that whether we are going to grow as a nation is going to depend on whether that attitude of constantly not believing and yanking things from the sky and telling people, hey, we're Zambians, we don't achieve, we don't dream. Hey, what's this? Shut it down. He got it wrong. He got it slightly wrong. Let's pull him down. That mentality, if that continues, that encourages more kids to stay online hating rather than dreaming and pursuing. Because countries are not built by how eloquently you can hate. You cannot show me an economy that was built by the eloquence of its haters. You can't show me that. But you can show me an economy. You can show me countries. You can show me anything that has been built by the persistence of its dreamers. Okay? If we kill the dreamers, we kill the growth. And you will keep saying, but how come the foreigners are the ones who believe in this country, who get better and better? Why are their lives better? No, they must be doing something. They're using witchcraft, all sorts of things. No, it's because we are dream killers. This country, we practice dream killing. We are professionals at dream killing. In fact, people have even got a term called shootist. We're even professional shootists in this country. And we're proud of that. Well, if you're proud of that, then be comfortable with poverty, because there is no wealth in shooting things down. There is no wealth in dream killing. There is no wealth creation in it at all. Did he get there? I'll say this, Vernon, and I'll close with this. A person only fails when they give up. Okay, even the Bible says perfect love doesn't fail, and it's simply because God constantly pursues you. A person doesn't fail until they give up. That to me is anything. Even if 1,000 people pitched up there, he still had the guts to do it. He had the guts to do it. Okay? In fact, just even one thought. Our president currently sitting in the country has lost 5 elections. But is he not the president of the country? That's a reality. Okay? He never gave up. Even though some of us were saying, guys, this is too much. He still went, and he's still the president. That's the reality. Okay? So I think there's a mentality that we have to change for people to dream big, people in this country are afraid to dream big because of the voices that they're hearing. And unfortunately, you do have to build that wherewithal to just go through them and cut through them. And hopefully, more people can aspire to do things, not just in terms of a stadium, but to do more and more. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you much, everyone. See you tomorrow.